titled Securing India's Digital Future, please welcome Sandeep Khanna, Chaitanya KK, and Lieutenant Commander Amit Pal Singh. This session will be moderated by Anant Shrivastava.
Good morning, everyone. I was not expecting a response. All right, so we're here today for a panel discussion around securing India's digital future. We have three panelists with us. I would first like to ask all of them to quickly introduce themselves and what's their background in, say, cyber digital space, and then we'll take the questions forward. So we'll start with Sandeep, sir.
Hi, I'm Sandeep Khanna. I'm the CISO of UIDAI, and I'm sure everybody knows what UIDAI is. In fact, all of you are my customers because everybody has an Aadhaar card. And in the security domain, core security, I would say about 10, 12 years, and otherwise have an IT background for about 25 years.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Chaitanya. I'm currently serving in Indian Air Force, and I have a good amount of experience in various domains of cybersecurity. I have served in SOC and CERT within my own organization. Thanks for having me.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Amit Singh. I retired from Indian Navy after serving for 10 years. My last appointment was with Defense Cyber Agency, which is the FX organization for handling cybersecurity for the armed forces. And presently, I'm working with Siemens Healthcare for their product incident response and threat intelligence vertical. So, securing healthcare with the manufacturing unit. It's a global manufacturer in the world, I must say, as Siemens Healthcare. Thank you so much.
Thanks everyone for a quick introduction. So my first question is with Amit, sir. You've transitioned from being a government organization employee and now to a public sector or rather fully private enterprise. What has been the whole transition period and what are the perspectives that you see with that comparison?
Yes, a very good question, which I have been asked every time whenever I go to any panel. So I could see both of them are working for the cyber defense, but the mission statement is different. When we are in armed forces, our mission statement is more toward national security. It can give us resilience or deterrence or even offensive actions. But when we talk about the corporate, it's more of a business enabler. So in corporate, cybersecurity is valued as a how much business we are bringing, how much our risk appetite is, and it revolves around your risk framework and as a business enabler. There we look at a national level protection, national level streamlining of objectives, or mission driven goals. But here it's more on a business driven goal. That's a major difference which I see when I shifted from defense to corporate.
All right. So more focus towards, say, mission orientation when it comes to the
Government, yes.
and here it's more of
Business enabler.
business enabler, could be profit, could be other identifiers.
Yes.
Right. So I will jump over to Sandeep, sir. You have a transition from the government side to a public-private partnership kind of an organization. What has been the change for you?
So again, when it talks of when you say business enablement is something which is part and parcel of a enterprise, and I would say when I talk of it's not only it's when a business looks at it, it is the enablement. Security is like part and parcel. When I say the enablement is what is more important. They are more worried about their IP. They are more worried about their reputation. That's what. And security from a rather is not to be taken as a gatekeeper, but to be taken as an enabler. But when I talk about a DPI, so in case of a DPI, the issue is in terms of trust. That is the core.
Sorry for interrupting in between. DPI as in digital.
Okay, so let me just quantify it or rather tell. So today India's digital transformation which has happened is in terms of where there is something called an India stack, and I'm sure everybody is aware of this India stack. If not, just a thing is that we now built in digital public infrastructures, and that is something which is which is a building block which we've taken about. We've got an identity layer, we got a financial system that is wherein we got a paperless layer, we see digilockers. These are all part of the stack, and of course this, to couple all of it, is part of a consent layer which is there. So in the digital public infrastructure, what is more, yes, business level, yes, it does to come into place, but it is more of trust, which is the essence of it, and for which, to me, security is inherent. If I don't build security by design and privacy by design in my whole thought, in my whole the architecture which I built, it's going to go nowhere. Today we're going to have DBTB coming up in the future, but if I say that I can just bolt in privacy there, no, it will not happen. If I have already been, if the privacy principles have been evaded as of now, going forward, it's going to be an uphill task.
So suffice to say that with your public DPI infrastructure, it's not just about building security, but ensuring others are aware that the security and trust is built into the systems. Right. So that brings me to Chaitanya sir. You're working in the government sector still. When you're building or when you're advising around these DPI environments or these public infrastructures, what are the key principles that you keep in mind from a governmental standpoint?
So in any defense world, as I was telling, every system, whether it's a radar, missile platform, or any communication equipment, it should be built with an assumption that it will face some threat or disruption. That's the mindset, and that's the approach that shapes everything. Now, this may not be a citizen skill systems, but these are very much critical and sensitive at the national level. And coming to this one principle, which comes into my mind, and I think which drives as well as which just now Sandeep sir also has mentioned, and I think it is very much important for the public infrastructure as well, is the security by design and resilience by default. And this is very much important for gaining the public trust as well. Now, if you take any military networks as well, they are not just encrypted, they are isolated, segmented, and they are designed to operate in a very denied and degraded conditions. That means it's anything that is operated, that is able to work in the situation of adversity. That means this zero trust architecture, cyber drills, red teaming, and also safe fails, all this be built in from the day one. That's why this critical infrastructure should be built for operational continuity under threat, not just for compliance. Because at the end of the day, this cybersecurity is not just about data, it's about national resilience. And we should be able to face this during that adversity. That's how we have to prepare ourselves. That's my take on this.
Hope for the best, but be prepared for the worst.
Yeah.
I want to ask Amit, sir, you're in the medical field. Medical data used to be isolated and contained within environments. And now we're at that era where everything is over internet. All the devices are, all the data is. When you're looking at that in consideration, what are the measures that you take if you want to balance between, say, usability, security, compliance? Because we know you can either have good usability or you can have good security. That's a general trade-off that is there. So how do you balance that?
As you rightly said, those days are gone when you used to have isolation in data. It's not anymore now. Like before the panel, what we were discussing, the biggest challenge that healthcare, manufacturing industry or hospitals have is the legacy systems. It's very difficult for a hospital to reinvest in some new equipment if the technology has changed. His fundamental principle is, if my X-ray is working, it is able to capture the image, that is good for me. I am not bothered about the security. So we had the incident a couple of years back in AIMS, or the testimony of that, where we are working on our legacy systems. So that inherent issue is there with the medical system. To strengthen that, we are looking at putting some additional controls, maybe outside the equipment, where we can secure the perimeter of that device, so that we put some additional controls and assure that it's not perpetrated inside the environment, in the medical device. That is one aspect. where we talk about legacy. Then medical field is a research driven field. Most of the things or technology changes happen because of research, and for research you need data. So with the existing data sets that is existing in the hospitals and the environment, we use that, and then we take that into consideration to redevelop on the technologies. So there also there's a challenge. So now the focus is shifting toward tokenization of data, anonymizing the data, so that the data sets are available and research can happen without revealing the actual PHI, which is of concern for the present industry. Then the modern day technologies of zero trust architecture, multi-factor authentication, and now we are also shifting our risk ownership. That is a trend right now, that it's not only the manufacturer who is responsible, it's also the environment where the device is operating. If I manufacture a device, I give it to the industry. Industry is equally responsible for taking care of cybersecurity aspects. My device is in network of hospitals. If the hospital network is not secure, I cannot guarantee my device is secure. So recently we had one ransomware incident in US. So no doubt our device was not affected, but we had to again complete the triage cycle for that to get assurance that it is not impacted because of the ransomware. So that gives us an open domain to protect the hospital environment, to get assurance that our medical devices are safe. That's how we are trying to ensure the usability and the complexity.
Is
in the
it
environment.
similar to how shared responsibility model is there in cloud environments?
Yes. So we are now trying to shift ownership on the hospitals as well as equally what we share with the as a manufacturer. So in the Indian context, we are also looking at developing partnership with the industry, where we as global manufacturers can provide some assurance to the hospitals to look into their cybersecurity domain, not only for our device but for their entire ecosystem, to help them in structuring their cybersecurity posture so that we can get assurance on our device to be protected in that environment.
All right. So one, you're doing your part and you're then making aware the parties involved that what are their responsibilities, and
Yes.
combined together you're trying to protect the
Yes.
environment.
Yes.
Right.
Because we cannot go alone as a manufacturer. We need their support to protect the complete ecosystem.
So the contrasting side for Sandeep sir, you are under constant soup with the environment that you have. How do you maintain agility? How do you maintain innovation while you have to maintain the data integrity, while you have to maintain the say the regulations that are there, you have to maintain the uptime? How are you balancing all of that?
Now the point is that to say that a DPI is not aligned to look at an enterprise, innovation and innovation and agility are the growth factors for any enterprise, for any DPI. So if I say that if I don't want to be part of the story, I'm going to be left behind. Today, the proof or the pudding is eating it. So when I say that today, at what scales we work, say about 10 crore transactions per day, is because of the reason that there is agility, there is innovation. So how do we match that? That is what is important. So what we've done is that, see, whatever the core identity platform is there, yes, but now whatever we need to what innovations we have to bring in, we got a sandbox environment which we enable the community to come and support us on that. We also, agility of course becomes part and parcel. I'll explain that maybe subsequently. That is one part to it. The other is when I say the agility in terms of operations, especially the SDLC part, that shift left is standard. It's all enterprise do so. We are also doing it, and for that matter, evolving on a day-to-day basis, making its automation up the scale, and also using AI. Also, we've got some private LLMs which we use. We also have the public LLMs which are being used. So to make sure to be part, or rather to be as agile as possible. Because when we're talking of sprint cycles, the moment it's same, the environment is same on an enterprise, same as with what we have. It's not like of course UIDAI is an authority, independent authority. It works in a total corporate model. It's no way associated with the government on this thing. It's just that the way it is been structured. That is one. The another thing which you've done is in terms of partnerships. When I say partnership with the academia, partnership with the industry, with the private entities. That is actually leveraged to very good things. Like when today the identity stack, when you say India does not have its own biometric systems, they all are, as of now, three whatever providers which are there are all globally owned. We have built one in the course of last about 7 years, built one system which is indigenous, fully indigenous, with the support of, say, in this case, IIIT Bangalore was the academy institution which did that. We also are doing a lot of things with, say, the private entities, bringing in, say, like for example, now will be a verified credential is something which is going to come up now, which is we're going to use. That means that in your wallet you will not have only, say, money, but you're going to have your own credentials, which can be used, which you can use to verify yourself digitally. That is again, that's a private entity partnership which we're doing. That's the way we've done.
So effectively, you're not treating the organization as anything other than a corporate environment, and you're kind of matching the same level of efficiency.
So no offense to enterprises ahead of them, because the top of says in case if your formation says you're talking of this territory, population says that's nice to hear, but population scales at India.
Yep.
So then one of the most populous countries in the world, we match that.
Awesome. So that brings me to Chaitanya. Why India has been growing in this space? They're starting to build a lot of these DPI environments. There is, I think, ONDC. There is Digital India Initiative. There is Health Stack. Bunch of different initiatives are there. From a technical and organizational standpoint, what are the hurdles that you see in this process, and what would you probably want things to be smoother about?
One principle that comes close to all of us is any system is only as secure as its weakest link. Even from the military persons as well, any system or equipment, no matter how secure it is, if it has one vulnerable point, the whole system is considered as a vulnerable, right? And that's I think the same principle can be applied to all the large scale federated networks as well, as you have just now mentioned. When it comes to because all these federated networks, they interconnects various government agencies, it connects private players, it connects startups, hospitals, etc. So even if there is one weakest link, it can be an issue. But at the same time, this oneness actually is like a double-edged sword. It drives innovation and inclusivity, and at the same time, if it is not mitigated, it can be a very enormous, big attack surface that's going to come up. Now, coming back to your question, I think coming to a technical standpoint, I think the challenges that we may come across is number one is because of this is a very big network. Monitoring the whole network will be very difficult because the traditional SIMs will not cut in here. We need to have some system where we can monitor the whole network here. And also, anomaly detection is also very much important in this case. And secondly, is the enforcement of privacy. It is very difficult to enforce privacy in this very large network. And you have to ensure that all this encryption and also this data minimization, all things. And I think one more thing is we may have to use a lot of APIs and stage data flows here. So exposing of these APIs can lead to an attack surface. It can be a potential entry point. So even this API security is also important in this case. And coming to the organizational point of view, one thing is because this being a very large network with many players, many participants, all of them may be of a different cyber maturity. So all of them may not be of the same maturity. So bringing all these players onto the same platform is also very important. And second could be having a standardized protocols. We need to have a standard protocols for everyone. So the standardized protocols may be missing. This can be second, and third, probably the incident response. As we know, for any organization, incident response is very important. So we should have a very seamless and correct incident response hierarchy for this. So if any incident happens, we should be able to mitigate it. So this can be from organization point of view. This is my take on this.
Alright, so you want the organizations, either the third parties,
To be at the same level, or there should be a benchmark against which they can be measured.
Yeah, exactly. There should be some baseline security standards. so that everyone are at the same baseline. And also we should try to enforce something like this red teaming, vulnerability, threat modeling. And also this, just now we have talked about shared security concept, shared model. That also should be covered in this. By this, I think we can, with this, we can make this digital India move forward with the place not being just connected, but they should be cyber ready for this.
So I have a few more questions, but I just wanted to check if there's anyone who has a question here. We can take one or two questions and team my dwelling.
There.
Yes.
Then the complexity is much more huge than the normal enterprise. So you will be interacting with other government bodies and other initiatives, which creates much more complexity. So how do you manage this complexity? At the same time, security itself is complex. So how you are enabling it?
First and foremost, it's because again, when I was talking about trust, that's the key pillar here. So when I say trust, so the way the way the whole architecture is structured is that there is actually no linkages. There are no linkages. So whatever of when I say, let me just give you a little brief about how UIDAI functions. So you got an enrollment process and you got an authentication process. When you say enrollment talks about when you get an Aadhaar, that's the process, and the other is in terms of updates where you want to change your address and that. So that is one business vertical. The other business vertical is authentication. That okay, now tomorrow when you're enrolled, you want to identify yourself that okay, I'm Sandeep Khanna. That's it. Now anything and everything here is in terms of what is collected is on a principle of privacy principle in terms of data minimization. I am just collecting 7 attributes at all. People may say that okay, biometric is very, very evasive, very sensitive. Yes, but we do ensure that how it is protected. The biometric never leaves the UIDAI premise ever. You've got on-prem data centers for that same reason. What is always is shared is with your consent. Yes, people are smiling also. So what is being shared is your KYC data. Is your that is also with your consent. So whenever you do an authentication, you give a consent saying that okay, this data would be shared. There also, for example, when you say a PAN, when you say someone is linking, it is PAN who's seeking your data, that is your name, your date of birth, and so these attributes based on your consent from UIDA. That's it. So there's no linkage, cross linkage means that I do not pull data from them. It's they have taken data. That's it. That's what. And we have got two entities. When you say there's an internet zone, there's a partner zone. It's everything is done through the partner zone. That is for the way it is modeled, so that you have so we prevent DDoS sort of a scenario coming up there. That is what the thing is. So when I say complexities, yes, we do ensure that our partners comply to the controls which we envisaged. So all these partners are called Aadhaar user agencies, and we do make sure that there's a 3-level of audit which takes place in terms of self-audit, in terms of an audit which we do or a certain band. With this multiple, the governance models does become strict, and we do also take action in terms of saying that we brought down services of certain entities in case they have not complied to it. So that is the essence to it.
In this healthcare data is coming in the future. IPA complaints, that is federal government, they will keep it on the privacy. DPDP is coming on the Bangalore itself, privacy. But future in case of India will be keeping on the IPA complaints.
So whatever medical companies you see here are in India are global players. So they are already complying with HIPAA, your GDPR. If you talk about my company, Siemens Healthcare, we are a German-driven company. So we are already compliant with HIPAA, GDPR, and all equipment that come in market from healthcare have FDA approved. They have a stringent rules that needs to be complied by any manufacturer to roll out the equipment in the market. That includes your checks for HIPAA and FDA, HIPAA and GDPR in the other countries' context. For Indian context, we have CPDSO, which is under Ministry of Family, Health and Welfare. So they also have some similar rules like FDA to test all equipment which come in play with the Indian health ecosystem. So with DPDPA coming in, I think most of because PHI is already considered as a critical data. So to some extent, we are already covering that when we manufacture a device or when we give to healthcare. yes, India needs a revamp of healthcare ecosystem when it comes to the hospitals. That is where we are working on presently with the DPDP rules coming in or your IT acts coming in. So it's getting more stringent. And in coming days, with the launch of DPDP, definitely healthcare is also getting covered in that. So we'll have some stringent rules on that as well. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, I have a question. Some end user wants to buy the product and they want to know how it's secured. Now, of course, as an OEM, we are not going to expose the secret sauce behind how the product works. How would you convince the end user? Say, for example, if they want to buy a healthcare, they want to buy a medical product, right? Medical IoT device, for example. How would you convince the end user that this product is secure and that by purchasing that product, you don't need to, for example, put in place other security measures? Or is the approach going to be like this? If you want to buy this and you want to incorporate security measures into, as if you want to use this product securely, you would also sell consulting services on top of the product itself. So you get the gist of the question, right? How do you convince the end user that what you sell is basically trustworthy?
Yes, I think I answered this question in my discussion in the question which Anant asked me. Like, as a device, we are complying to some of our regulatory requirements. Like, let it be FDA, let it be HIPAA, and we do give certificates for that. That we are compliant and we are protecting whatever necessary controls are there for the equipment in its own capacity. But when it is coming to your ecosystem, we would like to, as a manufacturer, we would like to have some assurance from your side also that your environment is safe for my equipment. That is what game is going right now in the ecosystem. So not only giving our assurance to the ecosystem that our device is protected and it complies with all rules and regulations, we would also like to have some assurance from your side whether your environment is secure to host my equipment. If not, please enhance that. That is always a recommendation that goes from our side.
So I think it's back to that shared responsibility.
Yeah, so exactly is indeed the question of shared responsibility, and how do you see the balance of responsibility between end user and vendor?
End user and vendor being us, or yes. So as I said, when we comply with the rules and regulation, we intend them also to comply with the local rules and regulation. For an hospital environment, if they have to comply with the perimeter security or they have to put security overlays on their health HMS, health management system, so that should be there in place because it should be it will be interconnected. It has to be interconnected, interoperable in both scenarios. So with us giving them assurance, we want them also to give us assurance that the environment is safe. And when I talked about this, we are working on a model where we as a manufacturer can help them in enhancing their cybersecurity posture if it is not in place. But with the current setup, I think most of the hospitals also are leveraging it to the best of their possibilities. Definitely.
All right, we'll take one last question. Someone already had their hands raised. There's already a queue. So we'll take that, and then I have a few questions, and then if the time permits, we'll take more.
My name is Jason. I have previously worked as a CISO for a healthcare company and was into healthcare AI diagnostics as well as I worked on the ABDM early adoption projects as well. So I was part of a panel just some time ago wherein we are discussing things around quantum, risks, etc. What I wanted to ask was, see, I'm just having a loose thought around. So ABDM is, or your ABA ID is one way of tying into your let's say digital health identity. That's one part of it. Your Aadhaar, of course, is there. Now, obviously, you would have thought through on how to mitigate quantum risks, etc. The speed of adoption as well as the interoperability on these things will be key challenges, as I was thinking. When some might adopt it faster, some less, etc. Now, coming from a national security standpoint, what are the key things that both on the health side as well as on the identity side on these lines that you are trying to mitigate? Now, what would be your thoughts around mitigation strategies around this?
So the first is, it is our Aadhaar, not your Aadhaar. I always say it to my team also. PQC is a very interesting topic, and yes, it's in a very nascent stage. And the very fact is that when you find that US has already announced dates of 2030 and 2035
Yes.
as the dates wherein you should be prepared to migrate onto a PQC stack. So one has to take it seriously. Because cryptanalysis is something which is like a secret sauce which countries keep. And the very fact is that now they are announcing it. So it has to be taken with great amount of seriousness. So in fact, I was about to ask you that question in terms of saying it's theory is very nice when it's MLDSA and ML Chem coming up and implementation. But implementation is going to be a huge challenge as of now because the kind of latency is going to bring in this. So today, like we work with say HSMs, hardware security modules. Those modules are still not prepared to actually, they say they are PQC ready, but they are not. So when you're talking of say 10,000 transactions per second, they are today, they would be about 100. So how do you scale up to that level? And of course the compute requirement, everything will come up. But yes, the essence is in terms of starting to build in that this. We've also working on say POCs to see that, okay, start with say digital signatures and then go into the key encryption part of it. So that all is happening so that by say 2030 or say by 2028, we are ready with those models. We are ready. Our implementation stack is there because is already there in place. Because for us, encryption is very key because the way when we pick up a packet initially, it remains encrypted throughout the entire life cycle. So as of now, of course, we use this classic, the standard the symmetric and asymmetric part of what is globally known. But then going forward, we will have to adopt the PQC standards.
What we've seen is a lot of questions are around complexities and the responsibilities. So I have one question for all of you. What is the one thing you wish more people understand about the responsibilities and the complexities that are involved with creating these, say, citizen scale systems? So we can start from Amit and we can go to Sai.
One thing that I would like people to understand, both on the user perspective and developer, the governance perspective. As governors, we should be able to build systems which are friendly for the users. Like an example, we had UPI. Did we go for training on UPI? No. But entire country is now using UPI very efficiently. So that is a system, I must say, a grown system when it comes to complexity. The security part, it is our responsibility to secure that. But it's equally users are equally responsible. One OTP which they share might give them access to some of the critical infrastructure that we host. So that's one thing which I would like to emphasize, that user awareness on the user's part and people-friendly infrastructure from the developer's part. That's my take on that.
So make it easier to use, but also educate people what are the abuse scenarios. Right.
Coming to my opinion, I think securing citizen scale systems isn't just about blocking threats. Actually, it's about earning trust at population scale. See, here we are not just building technology. Here we are building something, a digital infrastructure people rely on for daily needs. It can be payment, it can be health services, it can be identity services. If these systems fall apart, the repercussions isn't just about the downtime. It can be a delayed surgeries, it can be losing public trust and also losing some benefits. So that's why I think resilience, inclusivity and accountability, I think these factors will be built in from the day one. And I think this, in short, if I have to say this is not just this is like a public service at a digital scale. Is my.
All right.
So when you talk about DPIs, so the pillar is in terms of trust. So when I say that there is for these services to actually work day in day out, the trust is very important here. And securing these systems just don't come. It has to be security by design and security and privacy by design. And believe you me that I have been part of one of the DPI or DPI, and I have realized that the way it has been structured and the way it's been built, that there is already security by design and privacy by design, and that is something learning which I have taken, and which has actually sort of bolstered my opinion of saying that yes, these pillars are to be adopted. And foremost thing is that one, the population or the audience should know is in terms of accountability. The way these DPS structure have been built in, there is accountability here. So there is, when I say accountability to full, that there is ownership here in terms of securing the stack. It's just not that if something goes wrong that you'll not be responsible, you're wholly responsible. So that mindset is something which drives the whole things. And the whole thought process which comes in is saying trust of the population scale, at population scale. That is what you have to build in. So that is what we have achieved as of now. That's what.
So if I summarize this, effectively, the systems are to be built which are easier for people to use, and people should be able to trust those systems. But at the same time, just like we were talking about a shared responsibility model, there is a responsibility on the citizen side also, that they have to be aware and they have to ensure that they are not falling victim to abuse scenarios. All right. So we keep talking about this secure India and digital India. If I have to ask you one word or one sentence, and preferably a word, because we go to lens, what does securing India's digital future means to you? And we can probably start from here.
Growth, that's what.
Growth.
Maybe designing digital product with trust, access in every click for every citizen.
Trust and accessibility. Growth, trust and accessibility.
I'll give my motto what we work on: guide and enable to protect. Guide and enable to protect.
To protect.
That is the motto that we are working in for the healthcare industry.
Awesome. I think we are near about done with the time. Thanks a lot for the panelists to be open to talking about these topics. Thanks for coming here. Thanks to the audience for attending the session and asking interesting questions. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.